Hi everyone, my name is Liz Ramirez. I'm a wildlife biologist for the U.S. Forest Service on the Ocala National Forest, and I'm here today to talk about ArcGIS's feature called TimeSlider. This is a really interesting opportunity to see information in a different way, and I've been dying to try it out, and this is my perfect opportunity to not only learn about it, but to show you guys as well. So I don't know about you guys, but I tend to collect a lot of information about these birds, about red-cockaded woodpeckers. And I have them stored in Excel files, and I have them hidden away in ArcGIS layers. And I also have them under my desk and in filing cabinets, just kind of placed all over the place. So we do have 3 populations of RCWs, and for the feature of TimeSlider and having too much information thrown at you, we're just going to focus on one location, which is going to be our northern population, which is Riverside Island Complex. So let's head over to the GIS world. All right, so here again, lots of information that I have in here, but what we really want to focus in on is where we're looking at. Everything in green is considered sandhills, and these are going to be, we don't have any in flatwoods, but these are going to be where our birds are going to be located. And just because it's green doesn't necessarily mean that it is suitable. So again, with more and more information, we have the ability to look at stand age. And just looking at age, everything that's in blue is going to be greater than 80. So that's going to be your higher likelihood of seeing the birds in an area. And then you can also take a look at something called the ecological conditions model, which was created for us in 2011, that looks at all the characteristics of a stand. So your overstory, your midstory, and your ground cover, your age, everything that comes into play with RCW perfect habitat. And if it's green, it's the best suitable habitat idealistically that we have. And so, of course, all models may be wrong, but some are useful. And this model has been very useful for us for managing the land and making sure that things are going well. So in green, you are really now starting to see that the habitat is kind of constrained and that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make the yellow green and the orange yellow and trying to get more habitat suitable. But we're not going to look at all these colors because it's just going to be too confusing. So we'll just kind of back it down into a single layer of sandhills. So here we have 1985 is where this data starts. And I have data for everything that we're going to be looking at is going to start from 1985 all the way until today of 2019. And we're also going to look at it graphically. So we're going to look at information in 3 different ways: temporally, spatially, and graphically. I'm pretty excited about this. All right, well, let's start talking about it and press play. So as the TimeSlider moves, all of these layers, the cluster location, so this is just available clusters for the birds, and this graph are time enabled. And you can go into the property layer of any of your layers in your table of contents and go into the properties and click on time and enable your time. It's very simple. As long as your data is formatted correctly, you can turn any of your data into a time slide or a movie. So here you can see that over time we have really done a good job of developing our clusters in available habitat and just providing government housing. But this doesn't really give us an inside look on whether or not the birds are actually using it. So just because it's available doesn't quite tell us much. So let's look instead at available clusters. Let's look at where the birds are. So again, we're going to move this TimeSlider back, look to see where the birds are. The red are going to be groups, so PBGs, potential breeding groups, and the blues are just going to be singles. So we have some activity that's going on there, but not a whole lot. So with the graph, we also want to take a look at it graphically. So I've created a different graph that shows all this information. If it will show, hang on a sec. There we go. Okay, so if it's red, again, it's a PBG. If it's blue, it's a single or some sort of activity. And then if it's gray, it's just inactive. And so what this stacked graph shows is what the available number of clusters are versus how much are active. All right, so we're going to play. So now we can really start to see where the activity are. Where are they at? What are they doing? Some are blinking off and on. And what you'll really notice is that here in the center part of this area, they're starting to blink off. There's only 2 that are active for a while in the mid 90s to late 90s. And then something happens in this area that they start to turn back on, they start to return. Of course, all of this information is being collected by employees over the years, and there's the potential that there are missing data, and that's what might be reflecting this. But we want to take a look at a couple of things and see if we can try to figure out, using TimeSlider, why this is happening. And you can see on the graph that while we were in a decline in the 90s, we are starting to increase, and we are starting to soar once we come into the 2000s. While I don't have it available, this is when we were doing a lot of translocations, which could be a good indicator of why this was climbing. And then we stopped translocations in 2009. And you can see that the birds have been doing really well all on their own. Okay, so we've looked at 2 different things. We've looked at the available cluster, and we have looked at where the birds are at. Let's add one more layer that might be a key indicator of why things are happening the way they are. So we're going to turn off ecosystems, and we're going to turn on prescribed fire. So what's really cool about this is that if you have the data available, you can also turn fire into a TimeSlider or time-enabled feature to look at. So pressing play, we'll see that here's all the areas that were burned before 1985, and then everything in yellow is going to be the 80s, and then as we transition into the 90s, they turn into blue. There's not a lot of fire in this area, and I believe that this is going to be an indicator of why the population was starting to peter out here. As fire starts to come back and starts to really come in more completely, the birds are starting to return. So now we're into the reds, so we're into the 2000s, and we're really starting to see a growth occur. So speaking to our fire management team, we found that the previous management was to burn on a 3 to 4 year interval, and they transitioned over into a 1 to 2 year interval. And we were really starting to see some changes happening on the ground, with the ground cover in the mid-story, doing more of mid-story control of the oaks. And it really does reflect how much the birds really enjoyed that. And you can see here, we have changes in fire, changes in the placement of the birds, and almost all of these areas now are red. If we turn on the layer of available clusters, there are not many clusters that are left that are available. So that's it. We have the opportunity to look at multiple layers and multiple features and see maybe if there's a correlation to what's happening. There's other layers I could add to this if I had more data formatted correctly, such as location of translocations. That is going to be a huge indicator of some of the explosions of population success. There's also weather conditions. We've had Hurricane Irma come through here, so it'd be kind of cool if we had some sort of graphic that ran through the map and showed a hurricane. And there's also different management activities, so the cultural actions that we have taken over the years, such as mowing down some of our mid-story oaks or planting for the understory, and even invasive species control. All of those factors could play a role in it. And if you have the data formatted, you can add it all in here and kind of look at it all together, depending on how many layers you want to actually look at. This, I think, is a really, really cool start of just being able to look at the data and see it over time. So I hope this was useful for you guys. I do wish that I was there to be with you all on this meeting, but I'm on vacation, so you guys have a good one. Bye.